The moment a lot of GPU buyers or potential buyers, people who would, they're aspiring to buy a GPU, but the prices have been bad. The moment a lot of people have been waiting for is for a repeat of what we saw with the 2018 crypto boom and then crash, where we started to see used mining GPUs sold off at incredibly low prices so that people willing to buy a used GPU could get an incredible deal, as well as putting pricing pressure on the new GPUs so that people unwilling to play the used market there, especially with used mining stuff, would get better prices on their new cards. Now, just let's make sure we establish the connection here for anybody who's not up to speed on all of this. So Ethereum is a cryptocurrency that could be mined on GPUs, which basically made GPUs a printing press for money. Oh, well, that type of money. But that type of money is currently crashing in value. But the profitability of Ethereum mining has been a very strong indicator of the pricing of GPUs over the last year and a half or so. If you look at this yellow on a white background, I know that's hard to see, but this graph is from 3D Center, and they've been tracking prices since January of 2021. We can see how it correlates with the red line and the green line. The red line and the green line, green being the average of NVIDIA's 30 series cards and new cards, and this is the German market. And then red line being the average of the RX 6000 series card prices, again, in the German market. You can read some of the details up here. But the point is, look how closely the Ethereum profitability, by the way, not just Ethereum value, but Ethereum profitability, so taking into account energy prices and mining difficulty. It's not as simple as how much is Ethereum worth. It's also how much can you mine it and what's your expense on energy as you mine it. But notice how that yellow line trends with the actual retail pricing. There's a incredibly strong correlation here. Now, also this dashed violet line is the GPU availability. So notice that as the pricing is dropping on Ethereum profitability, the prices of the GPUs are going down, the availability is going up. Now this is just new video cards in these German retailers, and I've reported on this graph before. This only goes up to May 29th. What's the difference now? Well, I'm talking about what about the used market? Well, Tom's Hardware has some interesting data here. They've been tracking, this is an article here, below MSRP and only getting cheaper. The GPU deluge begins. And again, they're saying spurred on by the crypto collapse. So I was establishing the correlation there between crypto value and those prices. But Tom's Hardware has tracked both the new prices, which haven't dropped a ton in the last 2 weeks, but they've also tracked the eBay prices, where we would start to see the unloading of these crypto mining cards from miners who are getting a little bit impatient with incredibly long return on investment, and I think mining profitability dropping below $1 per day once you factor in high energy prices, things like that. Now, honestly, I'm going to show you guys this same info, but summarized by videocards.com into a much more easy to digest in one screen table. So this article here from videocards.com, and again, all my links to all my sources in the description to the video as usual. But this, let me get out of your way. I'm too big. Now I'm too small. Anyway, whatever. They've tracked all this information from that Tom's Hardware article. So what we can see here is, first of all of the GPUs, we got NVIDIA's 3000 series from top performers on down, and then AMD's RX 6000 series from top performers on down. And then we've got them listed next to their official MSRP. And notice some cards don't have one, like the RTX 3080 12GB. And then we've got their retail pricing on June 1st, their retail pricing on June 15th, and then the percentage change between those values. Now, if you happen to catch it at a bad time, you might see the 3080 12GB go up 9% in value, although just last night on my community page, I did spot it for $800, so it's just not sitting at that price. So when they happen to gather the hefty prices here. It wasn't available. But other than that, everything's going down, and this probably skewed their overall average price of a 2% drop in the retail market over the last 15 days. Now, that's not a huge drop, but as a lot of these cards, I believe green here is indicating it's below MSRP, and red is indicating it's still above MSRP, as a lot of these cards, especially on the lower-end AMD GPUs, have already been available below MSRP. We're starting to see a slowdown in the retail pricing drops here. And again, that plus 9% I think may have skewed that data slightly. Now, over on the eBay price, this is where I think things are getting a bit more interesting. Also, we have the buy it now price separated out from the average sale price on the bidding, right? Because if you're willing to play the bidding game, sometimes you can get a better deal, or a worse deal, versus the buy it now price. If you don't want to hassle with a bid, I just want to buy it now, right? Now, we're seeing much bigger percentage drops here, with the 10% average drop overall. And again, 10% might be like, oh, it's only 10%. But guys, 10% just over a 2-week period with the crypto market staying down. If we could see a 10% or so drop, every 2 weeks over the next couple of months, you start to see some major changes. But here's the other thing. This could accelerate. If prices stay down, crypto miners continue to get frustrated. That could drive these down. Now, I understand if you're not willing to get these used cards because you're afraid it's a crypto mining card. There's some cons there for sure. The main thing I'd be watching out for is if they installed some kind of custom mining BIOS that would give you trouble playing games. Most miners aren't going to actually wear out the GPU too badly. A lot of them are actually pretty conservative on undervolting them, things like that. But you can look into other videos, other articles on the topic of is it safe to buy a used mining GPU. But even if you're not, as these prices start to have a big gap compared to the new prices, and as the used availability goes up, I think that'll start to put pricing pressure on the retail market, and we could start to see a larger drop here, which is what I would very much like to see. There's specific cards I would really like to see come down, like the RTX 3060 Ti, which at its MSRP would be like an incredible value this generation, but it's been consistently selling way above its MSRP, even now $100 over its MSRP. Whereas on the eBay Buy It Now prices, we're starting to actually approach that MSRP, and it's seen a 19% drop in its average sale prices there, which is huge, right? So some of these cards are seeing some big drops here, which is very, very good to see. I'm really excited to see some cards like the RX 6800 XT have Buy It Now prices at $570. That's because right now for AMD, it's really the 6800 and the 6800 XT that are the ones that are still above MSRP. They're one of the only ones in the red, right? Whereas most of the rest of the lineup has hit below MSRP. So I'd love to see this drop a bit here. Now we're also seeing the 3080 start to hit some better deals here on the eBay Buy It Now pricing as well, with $641. That is actually slightly now below the $700 MSRP. So yeah, love to see this pricing pressure here. And now in a little bit of related news, we are still seeing some supply chain issues. So things have not completely healed. Xbox's chief financial officer is saying that he's expecting, now this is talking about Xbox parts, but this is all related, similar industry, right? Continuing through 2022, and the main issue he's saying is caused by the recent lockdowns in China, having caused more issues into availability, prices, parts and logistics and all of that. Now, in a few other news stories that I think you might be very interested in, so this is huge. So one of the few drawbacks of AMD compared to NVIDIA, there are some drawbacks if you go with the AMD card that do somewhat justify the lower pricing on average for similar performance. One of those issues has been the OpenGL performance, which is still used on some popular games. and AMD has recently shored up a lot of their DirectX 11 performance compared to where it used to be as one of their major drawbacks in a recent driver update. Well, it's looking like OpenGL is getting fixed as well. Now, this is a bit weird. I'm trying to figure this out exactly. You can feel free to look at the article in the description. So this does not appear to have been released by AMD. Like, this isn't a driver you seem to be able to download directly from AMD. It looks like this came from a Windows update on a Windows, what is it, like a Windows Insider preview build or something like that. I was trying to figure out, yeah, so it's in the newest 22H2 Insider builds for Windows 11. So from Microsoft, it had AMD's pre-release 31 point blah, 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 blah UWP driver. And this driver package comes with 22.05 OpenGL beta driver, which seems to be offering some massive boosts in performance for OpenGL. Although when we look at the benchmarks that people have ran using these, there was at least one that saw a regression in performance. So we'd like to see that fixed up. But basically, using some of the Unigen benchmarks and running in various configurations on different, OpenGL performance and all that. The point is, we have Unigen's 2013 benchmark Valley, which sees a performance boost of nearly 55%. That is huge. Up next, they have the more modern Unigen Superposition, seeing a 33% from one driver to the next, a 33% boost in performance. And I guess that was done using the RX 6800 XT. And it is looking like a superposition run on the 5700 XT was also seeing some performance gains. And again, it did say that the Heaven benchmark was seeing a bit of a loss of performance. So this is very interesting. It looks like AMD is working hard to get their drivers up to snuff and shoring up a lot of these traditional downsides that they had going into their next GPU launch. I'm really excited to see these enter the mainstream if they hopefully get the whatever happened on the one performance dip ironed out as well. Now, this is a bit interesting. So AVX 512 is an instruction set that some CPUs offer, and Intel was offering on some CPUs that they then kind of rolled back support for. Now, why would anybody care? Well, for one thing also, AMD has announced support for AVX 512 on their upcoming Zen 4 CPUs, their new Ryzen CPUs that we'll see at the end of this year. Well, one of the developers of the RPCS3 Playstation 3 emulator did a big blog post explaining why AVX 512 support can actually have huge performance benefits for certain things like the RPCS3 emulator, seeing up to a 30% performance boost over CPUs that are just supporting the AVX2 instruction set. Basically, this comes down to having this instruction set having a larger register file, new forms of old instructions, and mask registers, and I can only pretend to understand what exactly all of that means. But there is a detailed post here showing that you can get some very big performance gains as you move from one instruction set to another instruction set. And I thought this was actually quite interesting. And once again, the Zen 4 CPUs are advertising ISA extensions for AI and AVX 512. So, could be a big win there if Intel continues to kind of remove its support from its 12th generation Alder Lake CPUs. Now, Apple's M2 CPU, they announced a lot of their performance gains, but in their weird graphs that are hard to interpret what exactly they mean. Now, we're actually seeing some Geekbench results that seem to be confirming some rather large performance gains here. It's looking like the CPU gains are only in the 12% faster single core and 19% faster multi-core performance, which isn't nothing. I mean, those are double-digit performance gains. It's not mind-blowing, but it's looking like the GPU results have jumped from around 20,000 to over 30,000, making it 50% faster. Now, this is just a particular synthetic workload, so that it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But that is rather large gains if that ends up being representative. Now, quick follow-up. I reported a while back, a couple days ago, that Resident Evil 2, 3, and 7 on PC got upgraded with their next-gen updates that got applied to consoles with some ray tracing and all of that. But that caused a lot of older PCs that could run these games to no longer be able to run them because it moved them from DX11 to DX12, increased the baseline system requirements and the version of Windows that you have to run the game. And at first, there was no way to roll back to the older version once it was updated. Well, it looks like the complaints have been heard loud and clear, and this has already been fixed. So take a quick look here if you're interested in how to roll this back. If that caused issues from you, you could pause my video here or look at the link in the description. You can now opt into a beta version in Steam that goes back to the old version of the game. So you can now roll back if you need to or want to. I think the new version of the game also broke a lot of mods and like VR mods and things like that. So there's a lot of reasons why people might want to roll back to those old versions of the game. Now, a couple other quick things. It's looking like there's going to be a lot of free games available on Prime Day this year, including Mass Effect Legendary Edition, of course only free if you have a Prime subscription. But a lot of people already do, so hey, good news. And it's also looking like a bunch of indie titles will be hitting on June 21st. I think Prime Day's July 13th. But on June 21st, we'll see 25 indie games added here. I'll probably do a community page post about this along with a link to a free trial of Prime if you need it to help you get those games once those become available, so you can always stay tuned to the deals I post on my community page. Last thing I want to talk about here is OLED. I absolutely love my OLED LG TV that I use as my gaming monitor, but they're not cheap. OLED panels have been expensive, and for a long time, LG was one of the only places to get one. Samsung's kind of getting in there now with their QD OLED competition, but they're still expensive as well. Well, we're seeing BOE, which is a Chinese display manufacturer, looking like they will be getting into the OLED display market, and this can only be good news for pricing. I believe BOE is known for being one of the iPhone screen manufacturers. I believe they also do a lot of laptop displays, things like that. So if you haven't heard of them, they are a big player in the screen industry. But getting, it seems like with any panel technology, getting a Chinese company in there tends to start to drive down prices. So that's what I would like to see here coming up in the OLED screen. Of course, all of this always takes some time. But it's looking like we're seeing the Chinese display maker BOE is scheduled to make its debut on the large OLED display market in late 2022 or early 2023. All right, guys, I think that's it for today. I hope this was interesting, and I hope you have an excellent day.